Hello people, Hamster Sales here with another Starcraft 2 commentary. Today is on Typhon Peaks. It's a Protoss versus Zerg versus James, my Protoss opponent. He's going to be the red player spawning in the lower right. I'm the blue Zerg in the lower left. And this is a map I really like, Typhon Peaks. I talked about it as kind of the prototypical mid-sized map. I've talked about it like that before. It's a map I really like. I can take this third pretty easily. And I do really like 3 base play. So it's a map I like for that reason. Get 3 bases up, I really like to play with that level of macro going on. I tend to suffer a little bit later in the game. I'm a pretty strong early game player, I'd say. But let's focus on the game here. Bring up the production tab. Normal stuff going on early game. My simply named fellow opponent James here can be doing his normal Protoss stuff, chrono boosting the Nexus. So yeah, let's talk about what my goal is for this type of map. I want to get an expansion down. Normal time, I expand on 20 drones. Not a super fast expansion. That's something I've gotten away from. I've seen a lot of other Zergs get away from, as people seem to cheese kind of a lot, and it's never fun to auto-lose. Plus, it's really not the biggest advantage to get a 15 hatch or 14 hatch, something like that. You really don't get that much of a long-term economic lead from it, and it's the riskiest build you can do. If your opponent sees you doing it, he can easily even switch into cheese if he wasn't planning on doing it in the first place. So it's something I'd recommend you stay away from, both as a new player, but it's something I see, especially on mid-sized maps, pros really avoid doing that, going 14-15 hatch nowadays, just because of all the cheese that's out there and how effective it can be. So yeah, pretty normal game so far. Sorry I had to take a brief pause there, but I think we're back right where we stopped. And yeah, just progressing in the early game here. Getting my spawning pool. Gonna cut drones at 100 gas. Do I get exactly 100 gas? Do I want any extra? Oh, extra 4 gas. Oh no. Extra 8 gas. Oh my gosh. I'm guaranteed to lose this game now. How terrible. But pretty normal stuff coming down from our Protoss opponent here. Single gateway, single cyber core. Blocking off his ramp with pylons. I think still gonna need a zealot to completely block that off. Yeah, a little zealot sized hole right there. Gonna prevent Zerglings getting through if he pops one of those guys in there. He honestly doesn't have anything to worry about for me. I don't try to do any early game run bys or anything silly, but always a good idea as a Protoss. It probably would be a good idea for me to test the door at some point, see if I can get some really good scouting in. But I've got my expansion down on about 20 supply. I haven't made any horrible mistakes, as I sometimes do in the early game with my initial build. Yeah, I've elected to go for Spawn Larva instead of Creep Tumor with my first queen. That's always a choice you have to make. I kind of like doing that, and then with her second 25 or third 25 energy, third set of 25 energy, I guess you would say, I can throw that Creep Tumor down and connect my 2 bases as you always want to do. My initial Overlord Scout just barely getting in there, popping in. Really do want to run away before he produces, well, I guess an additional Stalker. You really could have killed my Overlord here. Very thankful James did not do that. Sending some Zerglings out to scout, just spotting the entrance to his base with this Zergling. Gonna be able to see any pushes by him, and no, run in, get him killed, take a Zealot hit and 2 Stalker shots. And my Zergling dies a horrible death, trying to poke in there, see what he could figure out. At that point there wasn't really anything going on. Getting his second and third gateway now though. So when you see just 2 gateways, usually that signals a 3-gate expand of some kind. Oh, and he's going for 3-gate Robo. Going to be pumping out either Immortals or building towards Colossi. It's hard to tell if you see a Robo accompanied by 3 gateways what they plan to do. They could be pushing with Immortals and Stalkers and Zealots and Sentries. Or they could be teching up. It could be a sign that they're teching, so kind of hard to know what's going on if you're able to spot this. I, of course, as usual, am not scouting this, but that's okay. I'm going for a Zergling heavy build so far, getting a couple of spines for defense at my expansion. And nothing too much going on in the early game. Sorry about the lack of action here. We are Platinum players, not always the most active of people. This opponent actually might be Diamond. I think I remember seeing after the game that he was Diamond. going to be defending his expo with a minimum number of units. You see, this is why you always want to... Okay, I do scout, but I don't think I'm totally aware of just how few units he has defending his expo here. Because with just another round of speedlings, I could be able to surround this whole army, do serious damage to his expo, maybe force a cancel with good micro. But that's pretty hard to do. But you know, if that's something I should keep an eye out for more, is opportunities to snipe the first expansion of a Protoss or a Terran player. Something you should do too. I am getting additional lings here, but it looks like I'm just getting these for defense of a possible, I don't know what. Have I seen this pylon or anything that make me think that he's expanding? No, nothing yet. So I have no real reason to believe he's expanding yet. So I guess it's okay that I'm getting a few more units for defense, a few more spine crawlers with my excess minerals. I've built up way too many minerals here. I really want to be progressing with my tech. Still don't have layer, although it looks like I have started gas production again with the intent of getting things like layer or maybe just for the roaches here. But let's check out the income. I'm behind on drones still. I really need to drone up. Okay, there we go. Just popped out a ton of drones and take a 10 worker lead. That's something you can always do as Zerg. One of my favorite things about this race is, you know, if you realize you're messing up on economy, you can just use your back stock of larvae to build a ton of drones. And I got that primarily because I'm throwing down all these gas. I'm going to need extra drones to support all that gas I just got. And I'm a little flippant sometimes with the spine crawlers. I've mentioned how much I love spine crawlers before, but you want to be aware of how many drones you're sacrificing to create those spine crawlers. The unique mechanic of our race is that we lose a worker every time we build a building, so every time you build a spine crawler, try to keep a tally. Either immediately replace the drone or just down the line realize you've lost a few drones and build some more to replace those that you've lost. Looks like I'm on 65 supply versus 66, staying very even with my Protoss opponent, who has gone for pretty fast Colossus. He's going to chrono boost a second Colossus out here and potentially move out. Since he's chrono boosting this, that makes me think he may attack early. And yeah, he's got a little defense set up here. Wide open natural expansion here. Really, gives Zerg players an opportunity to run in with some lings. You know, create a batch of lings with your larva and run into the natural of a Protoss if you scout it being this wide open, this vulnerable to attack, because just the nature of the map, if he doesn't set down a ton of buildings or static defense here, his worker line at the natural is going to be vulnerable to harassment. But that's not something I thought to do this game. It's not something we can always remember, but that's a potential vulnerability of my Protoss opponent here. So his army isn't that big, but he does have a nice text mix here. He does have a Colossus. Is he forgetting his second? Yeah, there's his second Colossus, so likely not going to move in until he gets that second Colossus out on the field. I don't have the biggest army right now to deal with this. I remember being quite scared when I saw him take out that Overlord there because, hey, I've not been producing a really big army. This is catching me a little by surprise. And mostly Zerglings in defense, not the best against Colossus at all, and these sentries can potentially block all my melee happy Zerglings from getting all their hits in. So my opponent, not the biggest army I've ever seen, but gonna want to move in soon here. He does have the tech advantage on me, and here he goes. He's gonna push in with these Colossus to just take out a creep tumor, courtesy of this observer. Getting a little stagnant. Yeah, warping additional zealots. He's perhaps spotting all these Zerglings I've got and wants additional zealot support for his army. Very smart. But I am reinforcing with roaches and a few corruptors now. Those designed specifically to take out the Colossus, of course. He gets a cancel on my third base, so he's already done a good amount of damage with this push. But he has allowed me to reinforce my army significantly to the point where I think I can hold off this push. We're going to have to see, though, if he even does push. He does have a very forward pylon, able to quickly reinforce. And I've got a ton of roaches. Check out the army tab here. I've got 20 roaches, and now my 3 corruptors are out, along with 24 Zerglings, versus 16 zealots, 3 Colossus, 2 Stalker, and 5 sentries. So I think I could take this force, especially with the help of static defense. And I engage as soon as he comes in within range of my spine crawlers here. Corruptor is going to work on the Colossus. Huge battle. Force fields preventing a lot of my lings from getting in. Roaches don't get the best position, but Colossus are falling to these Corruptors and some of the roaches that have gotten in range. All his entire army being wiped out. not gonna be able to retreat from this, just utter massacre. So I was able to hold off this push, but I suffered a lot of damage at my third, in that I had to cancel my third. And now we're on even bases. That's a good position for my Protoss opponent. I elect to take out this forward pylon. Let's see if I counterattack. Let's see if I counterattack. He knows it could be coming. Has his observer on my army. No, I elect to back off. Do not try to punish my opponent. You know, it's definitely not guaranteed I would have been able to do a lot of damage with a counterattack. I had no kind of scouting information. So I just elect to get my third back up, move my spine crawlers to a bit more of a forward position, and what am I doing tech-wise? Getting roach speed, started my infestor production. Love infestors against Protoss. Gonna need neural parasite against any future colossus, not something I have yet. And what's my Protoss opponent doing? Getting a Twilight Council, maybe for blink, maybe for additional tech, Dark or High Templar. We're gonna have to see. Stalker Sentry mix for the most part right now, a few Zealots. He saw me switch into Roach, so his composition pretty smart at the moment. Got some Queens advancing forward to plop down a ton of creep tumors. I've obviously built up quite a bit of energy. I'm going to blame that on the fact that my opponent pushed out and scared me out of my normal larva injection timing. That's going to be my excuse for the day. And what do we got going on here? Stuck on layer tech, but getting some upgrades, which I like. No neural parasite yet, but I do have 5 infestors full of energy because they have that energy upgrade. Pathogen glands, I think it's called. And my Protoss opponent also taking his third base, so after not too long I think we're going to be even on bases. Got my third up. We're really going to need to saturate this as soon as possible with all of my only 38 drones, so actually don't really have the ability to saturate it too well. Would like to see